what I wanted to share first is just my screen so that you could see one way that you can orient yourself to CUAHSI, plus having Zoom open, plus the Slack channel, plus the schedule. So I'm going to start on these slides, but I wanted to give you sort of an idea of ways to keep track of where we are throughout the day. So here we are on Schedule, and if you're not here yet, we're going to be updating information like who are our speakers and who are the attendees. It's up to you how much you want to add your details in here. But the main feature that we want to use this for is our calendar and location. So here for this Waterhackweek 8 to 9 p.m. session, we have the details of Waterhackweek and what are the locations. So for example, the main room here with the breakout, we're going to have more details and make sure that you can get into the Zoom rooms, whether you have any challenges with CUAHSI or not. CUAHSI is a platform we're using that has, it's a Zoom wrapper. So if you're not yet on CUAHSI, we'll have a little bit of time to go through that and get some questions answered. But waterhack.cuahsi.com, most of you probably already come through this channel where you're participating in a specific event within a calendar of events in a circle. And we've got all of these spaces here that we're going to be visiting today. And then on Slack, as we mentioned, most of the chat is going to be happening on Slack. So the Zoom chat is disabled so that we can make sure everything is here. So I put slides here in the general channel, and then also a link just to join through Zoom directly to Zoom with this hyperlink. So you can get in via Zoom directly or through the CUAHSI to move around breakout rooms. So for the slides today, what I wanted to start with is talking about Waterhackweek and letting everyone know we'll have to find a creative way later today. We'll find a creative way to make a picture of us. That's something like what we did last year, and even though, especially online, it has really driven us to open up all kinds of possibilities for us to experiment on ourselves about how to build a community that's online with interactive learning, not only with platforms, but connecting between platforms and interoperating on all of these on science domains as well as platforms, and do it together in a way that really it's a social construct. What we decide works and what doesn't work this week is going to be a function of how we socialize and what we choose to do and what we like about how we're learning in this online space. So when we put Hack Weeks together, it's a group of all sorts of career stages. So approximately half of our participants are graduate students and PhD students. We want to make sure that the future of working on water resources is expanding so that you can work on local problems and global problems with the latest technology and online resources that are available for hydrologic sciences and water research. So our community this year, with using the CUAHSI platform, one of the things we ask you to do is upload or put in information about your profile. So when you add your profile information for CUAHSI, we've got skills you want to learn is in red, skills you have are orange, and skills you can teach are green. So some folks have already got their profile updated here, but this is the main, I guess the priority ask of all the profiles that are on the different platforms that we've asked you to join: HydroShare, GitHub, CUAHSI, Schedule. Those are all great to get your profile updated. But this one on the CUAHSI with this profile and those specific 3 questions, we really want to use that this week to connect with each other and learn more about how to connect online. As a background, this online workshop and the in-person workshop we had last year, as well as next upcoming March workshop, which I'm hope will be a mixture of online and in-person workshops, is sponsored by the National Science Foundation. So a lot of our tutorial leads and developers and designers of this project are listed here. And that cyber training is a program that is relatively new at the National Science Foundation, and it's designed to teach people how to access and use all of the amazing software that is funded by the federal government for us to be able to do more research. One of those platforms is HydroShare, so that is a central platform that we use. And at the University of Washington specifically, we have a freshwater initiative that is Stephen Pastana has been a leader of, and this year's our Waterhackweek student director. And I also want to acknowledge that the land that we are on in Washington and in Seattle and the University of Washington acknowledges that this land is part of who we are, and it reflects our history. And I regret that all of you are not able to be here in person and converge on this land because it's a beautiful, mountainous, sunny in the summer place that has also been home for tribes of the Salish Sea. And where I live in Mukilteo, Washington, is actually the location where the Treaty of Point Elliott was signed. And that has special meaning for me. Specifically, when you visit my place, we talk about, oh, Mukilteo, it means camping site. But in reality, it's the camping site of Native communities who would fish and use the beaches for harvesting seafood. And the location of where I happen to live is where this treaty was signed. And that treaty forms the foundation of most of our laws in Washington, which in my view are responsible for that salmon have not gone extinct yet, right? And so it's really, everything we're doing, or my interest in Waterhackweek is really related to how do we bring all of these connections together, because we want fish to not go extinct. We want the water to be clean, and that's why working with water researchers and all in this community is so incredibly, it's such a privilege. So our other partners, CUAHSI, I want to just call out Tony Castronova. This is our cyber training project is a collaborative linked project with CUAHSI.
Do you want me to talk about this slide? Sorry about that. Yeah, so CUAHSI is the Consortium of Universities for the Advancement of Hydrologic Sciences Incorporated. We have this pretty nasty looking acronym. A lot of people mispronounce it as CUAHSI, which is why I have this phonetic spelling right next to it. So think of like Quasi.
This is being recorded, Tony. This is being recorded. It's a 1980s relic acronym, not. Mm.
So yeah, we've been around for a little over 20 years now, I think. And we're an NSF-funded data facility for water science or hydrologic sciences, but more broadly the water sciences. And right in these 3 bullet points, we have our mission statement kind of summarized: to strengthen interdisciplinary collaboration in the water science community, empower the community by providing critical infrastructure, and then also promoting education in the water sciences at all levels. So the way that we do that is, generally speaking, focusing on 2 large areas. Oh wait, can you go back 1 slide real quick? Is focusing on 2 areas. One is our community services, which are resources for training and research funding, building capacity, such as extending your research field sites and stuff, and also just learning how to run new models or use new equipment. This fits in pretty well with our community services. And then there's also data services, which are, again, generally speaking, software that we develop to provide access and archiving of data and also access to compute and things like that. So that's also something we use in this project. We still use a little bit of both, but like the actual event itself would probably fit into the community services aspect of our organization, and some of the technologies we'll be talking about, like on the next slide, fit more into the data services. And so CUAHSI participates in a number of different ways, particularly with Waterhackweek. Oops, we're getting small. Okay. You may be familiar. We helped organize a number of cyber seminars leading up to this event. They were all happening prior to March, when the original start date was supposed to happen for Waterhackweek before the pandemic hit. So we do that. We also we develop and continue to develop compute services. The ones that you may be introduced to during this week are a Jupyter Hub platform that we host. This is for Python R coding. We also have a MATLAB Online, which is a very similar cloud computing environment, but uses the MATLAB language. We also have some other pretty cool things like continental model subsetting. So continental hydrologic modeling is a pretty hot research area right now, and we're building services that will allow people like ourselves in this event to extract the domain data sets necessary to run those continental scale models, but at smaller scale, so we can actually do research that aligns with these national goals of continental modeling. Also, we'll talk a little bit about the hydrologic information system, which is a distributed network of databases for observation data, and of course HydroShare, which Christina's having fun with this presentation. HydroShare, which is a way for us to collaborate around science and also publish our findings. And of course, we attend events and participate in the organization of events like this. Unfortunately, we're not really attending in person, but we've brought, there's two of us here from CUAHSI, myself, which is I'm a hydrologist, and John Pollock, which I think he'll be introducing himself in a few minutes, who's a program manager. We're here to help you and learn from you. And I think that's about it. Christina, do you want to continue?
Okay, yes, thanks, Tony. Yeah. What we'd like to do in the next few minutes before 8:50 is go into some breakout rooms. So before, while you're listening, if you're getting set up on Kiko Chat and you're oriented, if you have joined Zoom directly or you're not familiar with how to get into the breakout rooms, please ask some questions in Slack or let us know. And then we can make sure that the breakout rooms everyone can go where they want to go. Otherwise, we'll have one of the breakout rooms here. And then what I want to make sure everyone understands is that this is our Hack Week. Waterhackweek is really an outcome of my and many people in this phone call participation with GeoHackweek and OceanHackweek. So one of the breakout groups, you'll meet Emilio, who just had a great OceanHackweek, and East Science Institute at the University of Washington is really a big supporter of these Hack Weeks, including how to build. We have a remote Hack Week group that Anthony Arentz has been organizing, and that's been incredibly helpful in just learning across the globe, people who are organizing events like this, how do we do it, and comparing notes on that. So if you're interested in Hack Weeks and organizing other events like this, please learn as much from us and get connected as you would like to, and we'll continue learning from new ways that you organize, and we've changed this event to make it work for everyone. A few things that we've done in the past is to focus on student leadership, on the CUAHSI cyber seminars, as well as having an education evaluation at the end. So the formal education evaluation that we have in part is because it's a National Science Foundation funded project. But that also helps us with thinking about metrics and measuring and quantifying how we connect all of our information. So when of course you're all familiar with the word stakeholders, But in this case, you're all the stakeholders. We're all stakeholders of this community that we're building together. So quantifying how we evaluate what works and what doesn't work about how we learn is, and how we build inclusive teams is really an important part of what we do. So with that, I'm going to pass it to Mary Dumas for a quick overview on one component of how we build community.
Thanks. I'm going to share a little bit about Canary Opera. Can you hear me okay?
Good.
Great. So Canary Opera is a channel that you'll find on Slack, and this is an environment where we're looking at how to make work easier with tools that are going to invite diversity so that we can truly solve world water problems with all the world at the table. And to do that, we have to expand equity and share knowledge, perhaps in new ways. Christina, can you advance the slide? And so part of the things that we're doing here in Waterhackweek are developing technical norms related to foundation standards for fair collaboration and replicable science. And we're also, as Christina noted, looking at culturally responsive practices for innovation in diverse interdisciplinary teams. We know that the rigor of science requires people to develop and pose difficult questions to one another. And solving quick, rapid problems is also interculturally fraught with opportunities to misunderstand or misread one another. So if you can advance the slide. What we're doing with Canary Opera is building out from best practices that I use as a mediator, facilitator, and trainer. And that's okay, we can keep going. We don't have to look at that slide. What we're looking at is how to embed those kinds of group process practices into the way that you de-stress yourself or celebrate the work that you're doing so you can stay focused on the science. So we've done some things before Hack Week. We were explicitly inclusive in the application and selection process to be transparent about the design and the processes we're using to mix you as much as possible so you can learn at no matter what stage of your career you're in, and that you can assert your insight and curiosity and learning objectives no matter who your team members are. So during Hack Week, we're wanting to support people in following the conduct guidelines. You'll find those out on the site. They're well logged at the top headers. When you come to the Waterhackweek site on Kiko, you'll also find them in the Canary Opera Slack channel. We'll also be offering little PSAs on how to do culturally responsive collaboration. And we also have pathways on the Canary Opera channel for complaints and feedback loops. These are both public and private platforms, so we can learn about the process of learning in a mixed and diverse community. Following Hack Week, we're going to keep these Slack Week channels open, and you can continually anonymously comment, complain, rave, and you can get contact numbers for us or other people who can help you make use of experiences you've had or make sense of things you'd like to correct or improve upon in the processing of Waterhackweek online experiences like the ones we're having. As we said, this is all part of a National Science Foundation grant. You can advance slides. And the Canary Opera Hack putting this into the Hack Week is part of operationalizing National Science Foundation's new standards regarding anti-harassment. So I'm gonna let Christina run through the breakout groups here, but that's a quick overview of the team norms that we're hoping will help things be smooth and productive inside your teams, but also in the spaces between. We have a lot of breaks. We have a lot of open room in the Zoom space for people to network and connect. So go ahead, Christina. Thank you.
You're muted, Christina.
Thanks, Jane. Thanks. What we're going to do next is go into 3 different breakout rooms. So as an introduction, this first room, so staying in the main room, what we're going to do is just have a conversation about how do we define a culturally responsive learning community. We're going to put this all into Slack. We're going to use the Canary Opera channel just so things are happening in a channel in Slack. And you should stay in this room if you have questions about Slack or CUAHSI or GitHub, like getting logged in or signed up. We'll give an orientation to land acknowledgement and where the code of conduct is if you want to work on building new vocabulary or acronyms or advancing how we develop these components of the community. Then stay here, and Mary, Elaine, and Scott and I will facilitate that conversation with you. Then the next breakout group is going to be focused on projects and the Jupyter Notebook, Jupyter Hub, and HydroShare. So Tony, who already gave us a bit of an introduction and also gave an introduction about CUAHSI, as you know, how when I explain CUAHSI, what I say it's our community nonprofit of everyone who works in water research. You know, if we were all to build our own software, it would be a bit, it would take a lot. It took me about a year during my PhD just to process the climate data, right? So if we have a nonprofit and using CUAHSI as our software development sort of community hub, then I hope the next PhD student only takes, right? And so having a community like CUAHSI help us with our software and our data science challenges, that's really going to be an outcome and impact in huge water problems as well as local water problems, like we talked about earlier. So last year we were able to have a mixer like this, and where we presented some of the projects from last year, so that in the innovations that you want to learn about this week and how it's going to help you in your contribution as part of the research workforce. Here's some of our research workforce last year, the type of projects that they worked on. So if there's details about projects and you have questions about projects, you want to lead a project, or you have questions about HydroShare Jupyter Hub, then go into room A, where I think we should take it to the help desk. So in the help desk or Jupyter Hub, wherever you want to handle that, Tony, John, and Stephen and Yafan can facilitate this conversation about how do we measure team innovation. So a lot of the work that we do collecting metadata and working online, we can track and measure how it's working and how we're progressing in science, but that is a bit of since it's a social construct, we're still figuring out how we want to do it. Then the third room is going to be more about, if you were interested in the specifics of what are the tutorials and what are the content of the specific software libraries that you're going to be working on. We have a lot of different topics or sort of ways we could frame the tutorials, and although we've prepared them already, we can adjust and fit and add things in strategically. So for this third breakout, it's Emilio and Bart, Erkan, Jill, if you want to talk about how to measure learning objectives in these tutorials, like how do we know that how do you want to share with us whether you learned in the tutorial or not, and that the tutorials are really meeting your needs and learning objectives, is what we'll discuss in the third breakout room. Are there any questions about this breakout process? Because we've got about 10-15 minutes to go to these rooms. So what I'll do is switch over to my view of CUAHSI. So meeting room A, here you can see Stephen's there, and meeting room B, what we should be able to see with using CUAHSI is if you click and go, there's a quick orientation to CUAHSI. Jill, if you want to go to meeting room B,
yep, sorry.
Then there she is. There you go. So I can see Jill's there, and I just clicked, even though I'm still in this Zoom room, I clicked in meeting room B, and I can see the notes that are on meeting room B, and you can see my avatar is there, but obviously I'm still in the Zoom room from the main room. So in order for this, so to move around the Zoom rooms in CUAHSI, you need to leave this Zoom and you need to join the video for meeting room B, would be how Jill's gonna exit and then head to room B. So does that make sense for like you're gonna leave this Zoom room and you're gonna enter a new Zoom room, and this green button is the easiest way to help move in between those rooms. And if you've got an avatar with a video on it, then that means CUAHSI knows you've joined by Zoom as well as CUAHSI.
Hi, Christina. It might be helpful to remind everyone that even if you click on a meeting room, like it shows that I'm in meeting room B and you're in meeting room B, but we're not in the different Zoom until we click on that green button, join video.
Perfect. Yes, thanks, Jill. And then, so with the answers to these questions, we're going to collect all of these, and we'll go over it later this afternoon and this morning. So I'm going to let people just stop talking and let people head over to meeting room A and B.